PSG 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2. PSG win on penalties. A really disappointing end to what was, in my opinion, a fabulously positive night for Tottenham Hotspur, for Thomas Frank, and for the vast majority of that Tottenham team. And I think for the Tottenham fans generally, who, for the most part, going into that game, were expecting blood. They were expecting an absolute nightmare. Not myself, for what it's worth. I actually said it going into the game. I thought Tottenham would be victorious on penalties. I said it would go to pens before the game. Obviously, I was wrong about the final bit, but yeah, we lost the cup. But I think we won so much more than that in the things that we can take away. With 3 days until our first Premier League match against Burnley under the new reign of Thomas Frank, an absolute transformation from what happened a few days ago in Munich for the last final pre-season where we got battered 4-0. Everybody in that starting 11 was, I believe, sensational on the night. I'm going to talk through it, guys. Obviously, a very disappointing last sort of 5 or 6 minutes of the game. And then some penalties, disappointments for Van der Ven and Mathys Tel. And I think probably, if I have to be a little bit critical as well of Vicario, I think goalkeepers never seem to get criticised for not doing anything particularly magical in the penalty shootout. But as far as I can remember, I think Vicario guessed the wrong way on every single penalty and went early on every single penalty. Their goalkeeper, Chevalier, who's not even known for being that sort of penalty sort of stopper like Donnarumma is or was. He's more of a kind of a ball-playing goalkeeper, but he picked the right side, I think, on every single pen. And so, yeah, a slightly disappointing penalty shootout. Obviously, we don't go home with the trophy. But like I say, the trophy would have been lovely. And I think that for the most part, Tottenham were well worthy of the result. Guys, we're going to talk about it right now. Please smash the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment. Thank you so much for everyone that joined me on the watch along. Had a blast with you guys. It was brilliant evening. And it looked so strong and so good. From the get-go, 1-11, Tottenham Hotspur, I thought, were the better team in the first half and for the majority of the second half. We sat in deep. We tried a new formation, a back three, with Kevin Danso, Romero and Van der Ven. And on the outside of then, Jed Spence, who, once again, I think that Jed Spence, by the way, has probably a better record of pocketing world-class wingers than most fullbacks in the game. He has done an absolute job tonight on Kvach for the most part. I think he did a great job on Desiree Doué in the second half. We know before he's pocketed Salah and Saka, etc., in different games in the past. This guy is growing in confidence, growing in stature. His work rate, his effort getting forward. Some of the moments where there was nice little 1-2s in the transition, and then the final ball was overhit a little bit, but he managed to sort of do a cheeky slide tackle and pick the ball up and go again. This guy is growing in confidence, growing in competence, and he's someone to really, really be excited about, especially as the breaking news that's going around right now with on The Athletic is that he's signing a new, much improved contract for the long term for Tottenham. So best news for him. And he was so unlucky to not be on the winning side tonight, so I thought he put in an absolute shift. On the right side, Pedro Porro, once again, his crossing, his set pieces, his tenacity, his fight, his determination, and his intricate passing was absolutely extraordinary. Listen, against Bradley Barcola, him and Kevin Danso had to sort of double up at times because whilst Kevin Danso is an absolute beast in the air, that long throw that he now has, that weapon that we saw for the first time tonight, we saw it 7 or 8 times. And that is something that is going to be incredibly useful during the games. I think the guy is an absolute machine. He throws his body, his heart, and everything into it. He's fantastic in the air. His positional sense is phenomenal most of the time. And even at the end there, when he took one to his nether regions and he was sort of doubling over in pain, he still managed to get up and try to throw his body on the line for the goal that was disallowed for offside or for a foul. Sensational from him. Romero, rock steady again, getting the goal at the start of the second half. Brilliant captain's performance, calm and measured. At 1 minute, at one moment, he looked to boil over and he calmed himself down. Fantastic. And Micky Van der Ven, again, another goal for Micky Van der Ven. Right place, right time. Opportunism on that kind of the first to react, the first to kind of see the opportunity and poke it home after what was a delicious opening gambit with that ball, lobbing it in. Polinia, I mean, unbelievable transformation from him. Polinia in the game against Bayern Munich, I was a little bit worried because I've been saying, he's my monster six. He's the guy I've been looking for, asking for so long. And against Bayern Munich, he looked so far off the pace because he hasn't played any minutes. So I was a little bit worried about how he was going to do tonight against the pace and the technical prowess and the absolute supremacy that PSG's squad has. But he was fantastic in the defence. He does everything that you could want him to do, mopping up the danger and then passing it off to Bentancur, who I thought, again, had a brilliant game. For me, though, Pape Sarr of the midfield was absolutely sensational, playing in the more advanced role, getting forward, having those pot shots when he could or trying to win the ball back, but defensively, tenacious, his ability to anticipate, to interpret, and then to ultimately intercept the ball. We've seen it before. We will see it again. He is very, very unique in the skill set that he has. And if he could just hone that kind of passing array that he is getting better with, I think we have an absolutely brilliant player on our hands. I think, like I say, the back five, Pedro Porro, Spence, and those three centre-backs together were a unit. The bank of five that was there, for the most part, that was solid, it was impenetrable, it was a wall. For the most part in that game, no complaints at all. My only complaint would be in the second half as they turned up the pressure and we started to make some substitutions. We just dropped a little bit too deep into that box, not for the first time. We did exactly the same thing against Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich quickly figured that out and profited by realizing that if we're going to drop that deep, then all they've got to do is get to the byline if they can break through and then pull it back to the D. And then if there's a 10 or someone there, an 8 maybe, that's loitering that can finish, then we can have problems. And the same thing happened in that game a couple of times. We got fortunate in one or two examples, but by the end, that depth, that deep lying back line, a back bank of five, gets a little bit too close to the 6-yard box, and that creates problems. And I'm saying it right now. This is not a criticism; it's an observation. I think that Thomas Frank and Cochrane need to be aware of that. Need to coach these guys to have more confidence when under the cosh, to just push out a little bit more. Otherwise, smart teams that will be reviewing the tape will take note of that and will pick us off time and time again if we sit too deep. That will be something that we will see will be problematic as the season unfolds. But for me, generally speaking, that back bank of five I thought was fantastic today, and the two wing backs getting forward and helping out when we could transition the ball. Let's move forward, though, to the two at the top end of the pitch, Richalison and Kudus. Playing in a two up top today, it was a bank of five, a bank of three, and a bank of two in the defence. But when we went and when we cleared the ball, Kudus and Richalison were extraordinary. And I hold my hands up, right? I don't rate Richarlison generally. You know how I feel about him. Tonight, he put in a fantastic shift. He was energetic. He was feisty. He didn't have the sort of shithousery side, but he was mischievous. But he won the ball. He was clever with his first touch. Best performance from Richarlison I've seen in a Tottenham shirt tonight, in my opinion. I can't remember anything quite as consistently good as he was. And he had some good shots from deep as well. He looked like a man with a point to prove. He looked like a man that wants to play in this system under this manager. And if you can get that sort of performance out of him, and if he stays fit, I think that maybe just maybe he might be able to offer some value. I'm still not convinced by his finishing necessarily. I'm still not convinced by his goal scoring abilities. But in terms of the effort, the work rate, you can't knock it. And his ability to hold up the play tonight was very, very impressive. But next to him, Mohamed Kudus. I am so unbelievably excited about what this guy can do. His ability to read the game when we're lobbing the ball up, either from goal kicks, from Vicario, from back passes, or from Romero, Van der Ven, that are all equally capable of spraying the ball up to him. He won absolutely everything. He can read the flight and just step back, gently, not cause any fouls. A bit like how Harry Kane used to do, and then control the ball on his chest, bring it down with consummate ease, and then turn and run. And he was a menace and a mischief for the midfield and for the back line of Pacho and Coutinho, etc. Throughout that game. I thought he was phenomenal in his ability to hold the ball up, to win, to turn, and then to bring in players like Richarlison and Pape Sarr as they got forward. I thought there was so many positives in that regard. And we were well worthy of the lead. We were well worthy of doubling it at the start of the second half. Unfortunately for me, guys, where I think that if you have to find a little bit of criticism, I'm really not finding it in any of the starting 11, really not at all. I would just say that when we made those substitutions and Paris made theirs, that PSG didn't really play with a forward 9 at the start. Ramos comes off the bench in the latter minutes and obviously punished us. But Ousmane Dembele was so deep during that game because we were winning the midfield battle every single time that the ball was sort of in the ricochet and in the pinball in that midfield. We were coming away with it in that first half, excuse me, and in the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half. Then the substitutions started to come on. Paris made some changes, and we kind of reacted a little bit later. And I think the difference was in the golfing class. When they made the tactical pivot and they brought on an 8 and they moved Desiree Doué out to the right-hand side, it sort of unbalanced us a little bit. And then when we brought some players on, Solanke, for example, I don't think he got into the game. I don't think he's obviously not match sharp yet. He's been out for a couple of weeks, obviously, and missed most of pre-season with his injuries. He didn't have anything like the same impact that Kudus or Richalison did. And I think the same could be said for some of the other players like Archie Gray and Berghvall, even though they only got some minutes here and there. And obviously the big disappointment for the night, I don't want to be critical on the guy because he wasn't responsible for the loss, but in my comment section, as soon as the game was over, thousands of people piling in, and the talk of the town was Mathys Tel. And I just got to be honest, I think it's so unfair. He missed the penalty, but so did Micky van der Ven. And we didn't get close to saving any penalties, as I said at the start, because Vicario went the wrong way every single time. It's a penalty shootout. Anything can happen. I don't think you can criticize a guy that's just turned 20 years old for missing a pen. It wasn't a good pen. He didn't look confident. He looked like he was nervous. I know he likes to put on a brave face and pretend like he's super confident, but I think that the little things that we're seeing like that and like what happened in the Newcastle game when he had the one-on-one, I think those things are going to, maybe eat away at his confidence a little bit. And so I can only imagine what's happening on Twitter right now, because what could have been an unbelievable night where if we just held on in those final minutes, final moments, we'd be walking away with our second competitive trophy in as many months, and everything would have been unbelievably positive. But because it didn't work out that way, half the fan base that always want to lean into that negative and find the scapegoat, well, their scapegoat is going to be Mathys Tel, and it shouldn't be. He didn't have a great game. He didn't have a great game when he came on. I think he gave away a couple of fouls. I think he gave the ball away that ultimately led to the second goal. But, there was a bunch of other moments before that happened and the actual ball went in the back of the net that we could have, snuffed that threat out. And I think, like I said, the organisation and the structure of the team had sunk too deep in that game. So I really implore everybody that's watching this to not jump on Mathys Tel's back. And I'm not saying that because I'm backing him to be a great player. I'm saying because it doesn't benefit anybody, not him, not us, not the team, to have a guy that's going to be somehow scapegoated for, the outcome being, disappointing on what would otherwise have been a fantastic night. We were better than PSG for the most part in that game. The last 15, 20 minutes, their quality showed. They had an unbelievable talent on the bench. We didn't have the same depth. We've got a lot of injuries, and we have to get some more work done in the transfer window over the next 2-3 weeks. We have to get some more outlets. If you can get a Savinho, if you can have an Eberici Eze that's doing the thing that we've spoken about for the last few days, that kind of the triple outlet and that the 10 and the 2 wingers, I can see what the plan is here now. I can also see why that need for another centre-back is coming in. Having 3 centre-backs like we do, and as I say, when you have people like Danzo that have got that bullet of a throw-in, that's a very useful tool, and he's so capable, I would make the argument that in certain games, away in the Champions League, maybe at home in the Champions League, depending on who you get, certainly away from home against the big 5 or 6 or maybe 7 teams in the Premier League, you're going to want to employ that same sort of strategy, a back 3 with a Paulinho in the 6, to just gobble things up and then pounce and go on the transition. And if you had someone like an Eberici Eze that was sitting in the 8 in that example, or the more advanced 10 rather than say a Pape Sarr, and you still had a Richalison, or you still had a Kudus, or if you were to use a Savinho, just the ability to be able to just pounce and transition and terrorize whatever defenders are back there. I think that Tottenham have got absolutely every reason to take away from this only positives for the most part. Yes, we can learn some lessons around, how do you get the players that are unfamiliar with the pace of the game, the shape of the game. It was a very unique sort of specific game. It was a feisty game for the most part. And as the game went on, it was sort of locked into defensive mode. Taking Kudus and Richarlison off, it kind of killed our outlet. It killed our ability to get out and then hold the ball up and let the defense move forward. When those 2 guys came off, it was just wave after wave and nowhere to go. And those sorts of things are going to be lessons that we need to learn. I think we also need to learn, how to push out naturally regardless of the outlet. And I think we also need to figure out how it is that the substitutes that are coming on can get into the game immediately and not have to kind of be off the boil because they're not used to what's been going on in the previous 85 minutes. This isn't, substitutions are nothing new in football, so it shouldn't be an excuse or even an explanation as to why what happened at the end happened. But I do think that the substitutions were part of the problem. Either way, guys, look, it wasn't the kind of fairy tale it was supposed to be, but losing on penalties to the best team in Europe, excuse me, is certainly no disgrace. There are infinitely more positives tonight than negatives. And as I say, I would encourage everybody to not look for scapegoats, not to get stuck into, agendas that have to agenda because they'd rather be right than think about what's in the best interests and what is right for our football club. And going after scapegoats and blaming certain things right now doesn't help. Let's lean into the positives and realize that this club has the ability to compete with someone like PSG. And I know that they were tired. I know that they sort of picked a weird formation with the way that they utilize things, but we can only play what's in front of us. And I thought we were well worthy. Had we won that game, no one could say that we didn't deserve it or that we were lucky. It wasn't to be in the end. It is what it is. The beautiful thing is that apart from the trophy, there's nothing else that's been sacrificed. No big paycheck has been lost. No qualification for any tournament has been lost. It would have been lovely to get the trophy, but it wasn't to be. Look, fantastic game. Shout out to Thomas Frank. He absolutely smashed it. Cochrane, the organisation, is looking very good. Still needs to be tweaked and refined. And the players are playing for him. And they look not just organised, but they look determined, focused, and they understand what is being asked of them and that they are deploying the necessary skill sets to be able to go toe-to-toe with one of the best. I'm disappointed with how it finished, but I'm delighted with how it went, if that makes sense. And I'd love you to share your thoughts below, guys. If you are interested in this stuff, generally this content, then please do smash the like, and you can find it on Spotify in video format. It's also on podcasts, excuse me, on Apple and Amazon and all that stuff. I'll be back here tomorrow morning for a deeper dive and a live stream. I love you all, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.